our own people. They just rehired all the cops that got fired. And I have a booklet and I challenge Law and Order Committee to meet me and the people, and I will bring you all the complaints Law and Order dismissed or threw away. And the Attorney General agreed these are due process and civil rights violations.
Sir, do you have a question for any of the panelists?
Yeah, and when you say warrants, I feel like you guys are already at the reservation line, stopping 65 plates looking for warrants, you know? That ain't gonna work. And then we got crooked officers that don't like certain people that arrest them and take them to the state line already. And we got a county sheriff here.
Sir,
that-
question. What's your question?
Let me just finish what I'm gonna say. Question or not, I got something to say. We have a sheriff here. We have tribal members that have been terrorized. Every time they call the sheriff, nothing happens. You gotta call Fall River County. I wanted that sheriff here to be here today too, and he's not here. So I'm gonna let go at this, and I challenge the chairman here. I will bring all copies of the complaints, serious complaints of rape and assault. And I want you to find the copies, and we will have a meeting. And I want that Attorney General to be there to address these due process and civil rights violations. And then we'll go from there. So the Law and Order Committee, you need to be looked into too.
Sounds good.
So going back to Sheriff Combe, the State's Attorney Mark Fargo brought up a discussion that was with the Tribe's Law and Order Committee about hot pursuit. How would that fit into that, and is there any kind of hot pursuit agreement between Pennington County and the Oglala Lakota Nation now?
There is no existing agreement. It came up at the Law and Order Committee meeting. And I guess I can give you an example. It just happened today on the way down. We were driving Highway 44, and here come a vehicle by us over 100 miles an hour with the trooper chasing it. And that's south of Scenic, and we got 5 miles under the reservation, and OST law enforcement and Badlands law enforcement stopped the vehicle. Well, as it turns out, the individual's a parole absconder on a state charge. The original charge was for an aggravated assault and kidnapping on a Native American female in Rapid City. Went to prison, got back out, and didn't return to his parole, or comply with his parole. So he flees from Rapid City, steals the vehicle, flees from Rapid City, gets 5 miles onto the reservation. OST law enforcement takes him into custody. At that point, there's nothing that we can currently do. If there was some sort of an agreement pursuant to hot pursuit, so to speak, at that point, we could take custody of him and return him back to the jurisdiction that he fled from, like we do now with neighboring cities and counties that border Pennington County. So that's an example, and I think did I answer your question?
It did, but there's no real, this happened, say, like in the afternoon, like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The Oglala Sioux Tribes Department of Public Safety has been severely undermanned. This happened 2 or 3 in the morning. Would we be certain of the similar response from the Oglala Sioux Tribes Department of Public Safety if there was a hot pursuit coming from Rapid City? And that may be a question for Stanley.
And I think like Mark said early on, this is a framework. To get into the logistics and the details, some of that needs to be sorted out yet. This just came up a week ago at Law and Order, so it's pretty
Sure.
fresh. So we're still addressing that, part of why we're here today.
Okay, thank you very much. That's the Pennington County Sheriff. I'd like to move the mic over to the Rapid City Police Department Chief of Police, Carl Jagaris. Thank you very much, Carl, for being here.
You're welcome, thank you.
How do you see the discussion today as we try and figure out ways to work together between Rapid City and the Oglala Lakota Nation here on Pine Ridge?
You know, I think this is, just the fact that we're having the discussion is extremely a hopeful sign for the health and future of our communities. Like I said, I've been in this business for about 22 years here, and I can tell you that this arrangement that we have, where there isn't a formal blessing from the political bodies to work together collaboratively to address public safety, this is very unique. This isn't happening in other parts of the country. And so what we're suffering from is a condition of normalized violence that is occurring. And it has certainly been escalating. And then you combine the additional fact that we've got under-resourced law enforcement, which has just been mentioned. And, you know, my heart goes out to the OST law enforcement. I actually will take an opportunity right now just to give a shout out to any of them that are out there listening right now, because I know that there are some passionate young men and women that are working very hard under sometimes very dangerous and violent situations down here in Pine Ridge. And they have the community's best interest in mind, but they just don't have enough resources. They can't work 24/7. And so, and I know when it gets hot out like it is today, that's when things start to get kind of crazy. So I'm very hopeful that OST, Department of Public Safety, has good air conditioning working in their cars and that they remain safe. But what it comes down to, like the sheriff said, is if we could focus on the victims, and if we could focus on the children and the current and future generation. Last week, when I was at the Law and Order Committee meeting, I heard one of the tribal members say that it's becoming unsafe to be in the parks in Pine Ridge, in the village of Pine Ridge, and that there's consideration, or at least discussion, that maybe we should close the parks and those kinds of things. And that's just a sad state to be in, when we, as community leaders, as public safety leaders, are acknowledging that we are in a condition where our kids don't feel safe. And this is impacting Rapid City as well. That's certainly, you know, why I'm interested. I could duck my head under the sand and just not pay attention to what's going on, but I think it's critical that we have difficult conversations, and that's what we're here for today, is to face difficult questions. And I think if we agree, let's put the children and the victims at the center of our discussion, I think we'll come out of it and agree that the concept of working together in a more formalized fashion is going to keep our community safer. And lastly, I'll just mention that even if you want to focus on the offenders, I think they would be better served to have earlier accountability so that they can rehabilitate and not continue the cycle of violence that gets them wrapped up into longer-term prison sentences eventually. And I'll just say the ultimate example of that is the homicide of T'Cha Clifford that occurred last summer here in Pine Ridge. That, in my opinion, was an avoidable homicide, in that the young man that's responsible for perpetrating that had been in contact with Rapid City Police Department. We did have a pending charge of methamphetamine possession, and if we would have been able to work collaboratively with the tribe and held him accountable for the drug possession charge, we may have gotten him the rehabilitation that he needed, and that homicide may not have happened, and that family of the homicide victim wouldn't be in trauma. And now also, the family of the suspect is in a state of trauma as well, because they're, you know, the young man that they love is going away for a long time. And so it's tragic all the way around. We're in a bad situation. I think only by working together can we make it better. And I think it's within our reach. And I think we can make it better very soon. So thank you.
Right now, we're visiting with Carl Jageris, who's for the last 3 years has been Chief of Police of the Rapid City Police Department. Carl, you have a unique situation in Rapid City. There is a growing Native population in Rapid City, and it's fluid as well. I think one of you today talked about how fluid that is. People going from, say, Rapid City to Pine Ridge, or to Rosebud, or to Cheyenne River. What are your challenges? I mean, we're talking about an agreement, you know, working between Rapid City and Pennington County and Pine Ridge Restoration Nova Lakota Nation, but seeing this growing community within your community, what are your challenges? I asked you earlier before we went on the air, and you mentioned that there were 135 police officers that you have on your force right now. And I know that you've been here looking to recruit Native Americans as police officers, which you know, you step back and you look at it, it's a very difficult position to be in. And out of the 135, you told me that you have 5 or 6 Native Americans on your force. And it's not for want or not for recruiting, but what are the challenges that you face in dealing with that community within your community?
Well, first off, the fundamental key to successful policing is community trust. And there are, without a doubt, historical issues that cause a lack of ability to build trust within the Native American community from law enforcement. And I think that carries over to government in general, but law enforcement is certainly the most visible representative of government. So throughout the country right now, for the past couple of years, the profession has without a doubt been challenged to create better trust within their communities. And I just want to say that that means something a little bit different here in Western South Dakota, in that there are historical issues that are unresolved, and many people are unable to focus on the present and the future. And I think that's what we're challenged with. So for us at the Rapid City Police Department, we're really focused on community engagement, and we're trying very hard to do what we can to do more outreach within the Native American community. And we're doing that in many ways. The best way that we're doing so is by the establishment of a community advisory committee. And we've had that up and running, and it's been of service to the entire